Good evening, and welcome to the table. Episode 2 of One Night at the Round Table, a Los Ingober Nobliste podcast monthly special. My name is CrazyChris. I am joined, of course, by my two wonderful co-hosts. First and foremost, the goodest of sisters from Connoisseurs of Wrestling. We have LegendsLover. Good evening. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Chris?
I am good. It's a good day. It's a good week. And, of course, we have the godfather of LIP himself, the good brother, Takers Minion. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you as I'm petting my cat.
Excellent.
How are things? I hear you're doing well. It's a good week. It's only the second day of the work week, man. So obviously things are going well.
Right, because tomorrow is the last day of the work week, and then I am off to New England until Sunday.
That is right.
It is Thanksgiving week here in the United States.
Yes.
So to those of you who are celebrating, I hope that you all have a very happy Thanksgiving and that you enjoy yourselves with whatever celebrations you partake in this coming week.
Jeez, and then that very next day, it's my birthday.
Very nice. Happy birthday, LL. 25 all over again. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight, we had the opportunity to change the topic on the fly, but I opted to stick with it, and we're going to do what we had the option to change it over to next month. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But tonight, we have a discussion about the man known as Phil Brooks, better known to many as CM Punk, and the legacy that he left behind in WWE and pro wrestling world in general after he unceremoniously walked away from the business back in 2014, and what kind of impact that has had over the course of time. So, yeah. Do you guys want me to start on this?
Sure. Lay us some groundwork there, Chris.
Yeah, all right. So, what inspired this whole discussion topic for me was an interview that happened on Chris Jericho's Boat Ride of Fail, where he did a special edition of his podcast, Talk as Jericho. This was approximately 11 or 12 days ago. And his guest on the show was one Cody Rhodes. And in the course of the show, they were talking about the concept of locker room leaders and people who say that they're the locker room leader, not actually being the locker room leader. And CM Punk came up in the course of the discussion. And I'll read this interaction word for word here. Jericho, do you remember this we had this weird locker room meeting in WWE once where CM Punk said that. Do you remember that? Cody, so I tried not to name names. Jericho, I'll say it because it's my cruise. Do you remember he said, Cody, multiple times? Jericho, as the locker room leader, and I'm like, you don't lead me. Cody, and it worked on a certain demo of the locker room, but there was one meeting where Booker T was in the room and Punk hit the, as the locker room leader, I'm telling you guys all to pick up your trash. And Booker literally threw his trash on the floor and said, he's not telling me to pick up my trash. They had this whole interaction. So Glenn Jacobs is the only actual locker room leader, right? Jericho. Kane? Cody. Yeah, he's the mayor now. Jericho. He's the mayor. And he's somebody that you would listen to because he's 6'9", 350 pounds of muscle. If Kane tells me to pick up the trash, I'm picking up the trash. If CM Punk tells me to pick up the trash, go fuck yourself.
Wow.
So, yeah. So clearly the opinion of Punk that has been left behind is not the greatest. And
no,
it's easy to see why. For those who need a refresher course, CM Punk was working with the WWE until 2014. The night after the Royal Rumble in 2014, Punk was apparently having some medical issues, and he was supposed to do a segment that night on Raw, but he was too sick to be part of it and walked out to get his medical issues attended to. And he wound up never going back. There was a lot of discussion and negotiation that happened behind the scenes And according to Punk, WWE just walked away from the table and didn't ever contact him, and just basically he found out over Twitter that he was fired. WWE, of course, tells a different side of the story, and there's just been a lot of he said, she said over the course of the years.
Yeah, there has.
Now, Punk went on Colt Cabana's podcast shortly after the firing took place and had a long and very detailed tell-all interview with
Can
Colt
we
Cabana.
also say it was a bit visceral?
Yes.
At
Absolutely.
times.
Yes.
Because I listened to about half of it and I got sick.
Yeah.
Listening to him. I'm sorry. I haven't ever been the biggest fan of CM Punk. Okay. He just had this thing about him that he was better than you. He was this, he was that. You know, he's the only one that he could move merch. But I called him the greatest poser.
Absolutely.
Because the finishers that he had, you know, that he tried to say that he innovated that were his alone, his and his alone. No. The elbow off the top rope, very similar actions to what Savage did. You know, the Anaconda Vice, that's something that's been around for a long time. You know, he did not make them better. He did not innovate. He was not an innovative person. He was someone that stole from everybody. He tried to make it his own. It was a goddamn poser.
The GTS, a finisher taken from one Kenta, better known now as Hideo Itami. But even more so than that.
And when he had the interview on Colt's show, he basically burned every bridge that he had to WWE. He shit on WWE. You know, he said that he was, you know, the man of the company. You know, he drew more money over his career in WWE than anybody that ever was there. And I'm sitting there going, the name Undertaker it makes me believe he drew a hell of a lot more money than you ever thought of. Punk.
Yep. And that's to say nothing of the completely entitled nature of the feud that Punk had with Undertaker the year before, which Punk always said should have been the main event of WrestleMania that year instead of don't forget, I don't remember what the main event wound up being for WrestleMania in 2013. Let me look that up real quick. I think it was another Rock Cena match, but I'm not sure.
I think you're right. I think it was Rock Cena.
Or it
was Cena Triple H, one or the other.
No, it was Rock Cena, the second Rock Cena match.
Right.
Yep, that was WrestleMania 29 in East Rutherford, New Jersey. About a good 10 minutes from my apartment where I'm sitting right now. So,
yes.
So the thing about Punk that always rubbed me the wrong way, like I enjoyed, the character work that he brought in the ring, and some of his wrestling moves were good, but the entitled nature with which he carried himself, really just rubbed me the wrong way from minute one. Even before he, adopted the whole best in the world gimmick and was feuding along, with John Cena for as long as he was, and the whole double title thing, and then just everything that went on there with CM Punk, it just made me really feel like he was just not a guy that was ever going to contribute in a positive way to the company. No. And it wound up being that wound up being the case, that he did not end up being a positive contributor to the company over time, at least in my opinion.
But he was one of the people that helped drag the company down. Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Talking about we talk about people that were being held back. He had the ability to hold people back. Because he had the ears of a lot of the people in creative. Why? Because he wrote his own shit. So if you were ever involved in something with him, CM Punk was the one writing the shtick, and he would do everything to make himself look good.
Yep.
You know, I still didn't like the whole feud with Undertaker going into WrestleMania with the urn and making fun of Paul Bearer being dead. It wasn't. No.
Yeah, no, that was
that was in bad taste. Even though they say William Moody's family gave their blessing on it, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. It's the cheapest thing to do, honestly.
It's cheap heat.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen how badly that has blown up in the company's face, and that's something we'll touch on later.
Yeah, that especially lately.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I could say right now.
Yeah, me too.
We're gonna leave that for now.
We're biting our tongues, aren't we? We're behaving ourselves.
We're gonna bide our time on that topic. But when it comes down to it, the whole concept of of what CM Punk believed and what he tried to impart to his fans and to the audience at large, it really could be distilled down to three things that I think were net negatives on everything and everyone around him.
Okay.
We'll address these one at a time.
Okay.
First of all, the whole idea that if you were not in the main event of WrestleMania, you were nobody in the company and you were not valued or important or worth anything.
It's bullshit.
Why?
Yeah. It is bullshit. You're absolutely right, Ella.
Yeah, it's bullshit because you figure, look at how many wrestlers are. You can't have everybody at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And not everybody can main event WrestleMania.
Certainly. You certainly cannot have everybody in the main event of WrestleMania.
Oh, I could only imagine, and I'm going to bring this up to today's time, especially what happened over the last four WrestleManias in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Who was in the main event, the consistent name in the main event? Roman Reigns.
Yep.
How would Mr. CM Punk... what kind of promos would he be cutting about that?
He'd have a shit fit.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he has had a shit fit about it, and then we'll come back to that in a bit. But that whole principle of saying that if your favorite is not, in the spotlight, in the upper tier, the upper echelon of everything, then they're worthless. It was very much a self-aggrandizing move because of the fact that he didn't get the main event of WrestleMania 29. But it galvanized a huge segment of the audience to basically react in the same way, which is essentially what led to Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement in 2014.
Yep. Because Daniel Bryan was so much the opposite of CM Punk.
Yep. And that whole idea really created a atmosphere of entitlement by proxy among a lot of fans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It totally does.
Well, what it also did is it gave a lot of hurt feelings in the locker room.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
And you figure, look at the fans. There for quite a while after Punk left, it was a couple of years. The fans are still chanting for CM Punk. They went along with it.
Yep.
And it's like, what the hell is this? CM Punk didn't do that much for the company.
Every time Raw, SmackDown, or a pay-per-view is in Chicago,
it happens.
The internet rumors start. CM Punk is coming back. CM Punk return imminent.
Mm-hmm.
There was talk of CM Punk being at All In this year.
Yep.
Well, it's also you think about it.
No, he didn't do it.
You figure on some of these pay-per-views and the main event, if it ain't somebody that most of the fans want, they're tired of, they start chanting CM Punk.
Yep.
I
mean, it's definitely has lessened a bit, over the years, but it still is a thing that happens, and it's honestly just, it's just kind of gross that it keeps on happening, because as you guys said, he didn't really do all that much to merit that level of reaction. But the fact that he gave the fans license to feel like they should have that level of control over things, and to have their influence be the big thing, is what really led to that point.
Well, also, he's got that straight edge, which was fine. He wants to be drug-free, smoke-free, alcohol-free. That is fine. But don't condemn somebody that slips up and has had a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
And comes, people have a problem with that. They rebound. But with Punk, he condemned them because they did it in the first place.
Yep. Very judgmental attitude, which is not what people who are, I know plenty of straight edge people myself. And there are other straight edge people in the company right now. Ray Rowe, one half of the War Raiders, he is straight edge. But he's not someone that will ever, condemn someone else because they choose to have a different lifestyle than him, because everybody's allowed to live their own life. That's basic tenet of life: live and let live.
Exactly, but there's always the one. There's always that group, that 10%, that ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
CM Punk has alienated so many people against the straight edge lifestyle because of his attitude.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I'm better than you, and he believed it.
Mm-hmm.
He literally believed that he was better than everybody else that was, having a couple beers, smoking cigarettes. I never got into drugs, but I'd have the beer and I smoked. I still smoke on occasion, but I never got into the other shit because it never interested me.
Yeah. But that should, that doesn't mean that you're a lesser person. And that's the thing that, really needs to be conveyed. And that's what, that's the positive way of getting the message out there. If you really want to have it be a positive contributor to society around you, and really, if you want to influence people, as the saying goes, you get more bees with honey. If you really wanted to influence people and to, make people consider changing their lifestyle to be one of a straight edge background, letting people, find their own way in life, and, saying, yeah, you do you. This is how I choose to conduct myself. Maybe that way would have been a better way to, convince people, hey, maybe this is worth trying out.
Right.
Or helping people go to that way. Don't condemn them because they're not, or they weren't. But you bring them over, you help them.
Yeah.
And he was not a helper.
No.
Well, the thing is this. Okay, this is something you don't know about me, Chris, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about me. My wife knows this. I had over 25 years in AA. Okay, and my first few years, I went through a serious jealousy streak with people, certain individuals, part of the group. The and us, okay, alcoholic and a whatever, and a drug addict. Those were the ones, and I was jealous of them for the longest time. And it just turned out that it was because I never experienced what they had, and I felt that I had been cheated and shortchanged, and it's totally wrong on my part to even think that. And I learned over time that was what it was, what the problem was. And anyone who says differently to me about it can rot.
Fair.
So, but yeah, like I said, that's my past. That's some of my past.
Well, everybody that does it, they take they take in and they take out what they need. Everybody's different.
Exactly.
There is no one that's going to sit there and hold it. You can put a gun to my head and tell me you're going to shoot me dead if I don't go straight edge. I'll tell you, pull the trigger. Pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they would look at me like, are you out of your mind?
You can't tell anybody how to lead their life. That's just not a thing you can do.
Yeah, I know people that are straight edge and they're just fine with what I do. They could care less what I do.
Exactly. That's the same thing for me.
They'll say to me, "Well, that you shouldn't be." I said, "Yes, I know, I shouldn't be." I said, "But allow me some vices."
Exactly. But yeah, that was one big aspect of Punk's time. The entitlement and the self-centeredness of his
and the arrogance
of his career. Absolutely, they it kind of was passed down to the fans in that way. So the fact that he never really gave anybody the option to think differently, or that he made it seem like if you thought differently that you were wrong. The way that in which he chose to how do you say push his beliefs on others in that way was that was not the right way to go about things.
No,
at all.
Well, you look at this, even when he was champion, he was basically a placeholder.
Well, yeah, and that's the second point also. The whole idea that he conveyed that people would not ever be able to progress or be, to be more significant in the company because the company had it out for everybody else, and the company had already decided who they wanted to be in the top spots and what they wanted, and that nobody would ever be able to break them of that. And it was, how many times did we hear the phrase "make Roman look strong" over the course of the last 4 or 5 years? Because he was the first one to say it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, this Roman did look strong on his own.
Yep.
But it was the fans that did not want him.
Yeah, but I maintain, and I always will maintain, that the company's bad booking of Roman is directly a result of the fact that Punk put that phrase out there and everybody adopted it. And because of that, the company didn't want to, have it seem like that was actually a thing.
Mm.
So they purposefully booked him weaker than that so that he would be, so that they could break away from that model and say, no, we're not actually doing that. Look at this. Look at how often he's losing. All those things when the guy clearly, doesn't have the look of someone who would be losing a whole lot and doesn't play a character where it's convincing for him to lose a lot.
Right.
So, the company, in essence, because they listened to that and let it dictate their position, they shot themselves in the ass because of that.
Yeah.
Well, if anything I could say is this, CM Punk has poisoned the well so badly for a lot of fans, current crop of fans, that I'm taking a phrase. It's just I'm using it as just a general phrase, but there's a lot of people out there that's drinking CM Punk's Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
And don't ever, and Chris, you've seen this happen to me more than once. Don't ever call someone out on it.
Yeah.
Because they will come at you. Yeah.
In the worst way.
Yes.
The absolute worst way.
Yes.
And it's unjustified.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those things where perception bias came into play in a huge way.
Yeah.
Because CM Punk created this whole atmosphere, as I said, of saying, make Roman look strong. Like it was, predestined that Roman was going to be the top guy.
And so what if it was?
And because he said that, the fans automatically jumped to the conclusion that was going to be the case as soon as the Shield broke up. And that, was the start of the ill will because, Lord forbid, their master, their Lord and Savior CM Punk said it, so it must be true. So, and they were not going to.
And like I said, and so what if it was?
Exactly.
Vince and the company Vince has been in this business for what? 40 plus years, 50 some years.
Mm-hmm.
He's made billions of dollars in this business. Why? Because he knows what the hell he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
There is not one person anywhere. You and George and myself and LL and everybody that we all know, everybody that's part of the network, part of the LIP network.
Mm-hmm.
We all say, keep it simple. Keep the wrestling keep booking simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if we were to have a company, we would have booking as overcomplicated as the next guy.
Yeah.
Why? Because we feel we can do it better than they can.
Mm-hmm.
We would lose touch with our principle, our core belief and core principles, because we're making money doing the complicated shit.
Yeah. that's not wrong. Not wrong at all.
And I hate to pull everybody's covers, but yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, it is. It honestly is.
Sorry, George. Sorry, Chris.
No, I mean, I'm not going to stand here and say that, you don't know what you're talking about because I know I'd be guilty of that in a heartbeat.
I would too. And I know it. That's why I'm saying it. Yeah. I would be just as guilty as the next guy.
Yeah.
Because we know better. Yeah, right. Until we're the one in charge, the one with the pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're the one with the pencil, I can do this. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's not
it's not rocket science, but
yeah.
They all they all make it rocket science.
Yeah.
For one reason or another.
But what again, getting back to the whole idea of the perception bias, they had a whole idea in place, a whole storyline in place for what to do after the Shield breakup happened. And they knew, they wanted it to go in a certain direction because they had the whole idea of it being Dean going after Seth and then Roman taking on Triple H and the Authority. And that was the direction they were going in. And if not for Roman getting the hernia and being out for 3 months because of that, it probably could have progressed into a storyline that would have actually been really great. Obviously you can't plan for injuries, you can't plan for those kinds of unforeseen circumstances. But there was still, there was still a plan in place, and it may not have necessarily been one that would have played out in the way that the fans believed it did. We'll never know. But the fans didn't give it a chance.
No. And why? It wasn't Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm. And let's not even
let's not even go there.
Let's not even talk about the fact that he was not even at the time that Roman came back, he was not even cleared to wrestle, and did not appear to be even on the road to being back.
Right.
Until over a month later that he was actually on the way. So the fans worked themselves into a shoot, and you know how I feel about that.
Oh yeah. Famous line of George: "Don't work yourself into a shoot," but everybody does.
That's our show. That's our show's slogan. Don't work yourself into a shoot.
Yep. And a lot of people have stolen it, but
the fans allowed it to happen because Punk, said what he said.
Punk poisoned a well.
Yeah.
Say it for what it is.
Yeah. It absolutely is the case. And they maintained that attitude for 3 freaking years. And longer than that even for some.
It's still going on now.
Yeah.
And it's been, 4 years since he left?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 4.5, almost 5 years now.
Yeah, almost 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It is sad.
We've
got a whole generation of fans that have been corrupted by one guy.
Yeah. That's a good point that you bring up there, Adam, that, with the Jeff Hardy feud and that being an example of his rigidness and, his high-handed personality. That's absolutely correct. And, it wasn't just about his straight edge lifestyle either. He just, he had to have everything be, going his way. And it was finally when the company finally, said, no, we're not going that way, is when everything kind of fell apart for him. But, he made his own bed in that way.
Yeah.
All because, he had that all that time of bitterness about not getting into the Mania main event. So it, because of that, it never really went away.
Or he didn't have the cups, and he didn't have, the T-shirts. He didn't have as much stuff as everybody else.
Yeah.
That's going back to the pipe bomb.
Oh yeah. And that's actually, that actually brings us to my third point about what he left behind, and that is the whole idea that, Punk and his insistence upon, I don't want to say talking down to the fans, because he didn't talk down to the fans, but his insistence upon, and it wasn't even to the fans, it was to the business, but his insistence that, the whole idea of this being a work had to be, brought to the forefront and made a central piece of the story.
Yeah.
Really hurt everything. Absolutely hurt everything about the business, and specifically about WWE, because they were doing just fine with continuing to tell stories as they always had. But, Punk came in there and, he dropped the pipe bomb, and there were all the other promos and all the other segments that he did that, kind of made it obvious that this was, obviously that it's a work. And yeah, of course we all know, but, the idea is still to be able to suspend your disbelief. And Punk insisted on making it impossible to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I feel that is the thing more than anything else that has created the whole divide between the fans of, actual wrestling fans and smarks that only care about being right and knowing more than you and, having all the insider knowledge.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I'm biting my tongue because I've got so many things I could say about that, Chris.
No, please.
About smarks in general.
Yeah, please. That's a big part of this.
Yeah,
go for it.
I am a fan of over 40 years of this industry, of this business, of this sport. Okay? I know what I know. I'm still learning today. I'm not going to sit there and tell you I know everything. And those people who use the insider terms to try to make themselves feel like they're insiders, they're not. You're only an insider if you can actually get inside. If you understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on several different things right now because there's a local indie show, a local independent promotion that comes through here. You there for a while, it was coming every month. Now it's coming. They just had a show in at the beginning of this month. Their next one's in February.
Right.
And I'm trying to get where I have the ability to get in the back with the guys and the girls, get to know them, but in exchange for promoting them on the platform, on our new platform.
Right.
And haven't heard anything yet, but, I'm going to touch base with them again probably tomorrow.
Okay, good.
But that's the thing. Sometimes you got to push.
Mm-hmm.
But they may not know what to do with that because that's something out of the clear blue.
Right.
They don't know me from Adam. Maybe they're listening to the shows and going, this guy knows a thing or two. Who knows?
Exactly.
But no, the whole thing with Smarks is that, they all want to be that they're smarter than we are.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful who you're talking to. Sometimes you don't know how long they've been a fan.
Yeah, or what their attitude is about the product.
Right. I mean, Chris, listening to you, I thought you'd been following the business for a good 10 years when I first started listening to you.
Yeah, no, only been in for about 5, and this is actually 4 years as of this month, and I'm lucky that I came in in earnest after the fact, but if I had come in when Punk was around and when Punk was in his prime time, I probably would not have stuck around because of the fact that he just had such a generally bad attitude. It came through clear as day.
Mm-hmm.
So
his video that WWE put out, which all of a sudden you can't find it. It's not even on the network anymore.
Mm-hmm.
About leaving, coming to a place, and when you leaving it better for the next person. He didn't do that.
No, not at all.
He made it hard for everybody.
Yes. Yep. And he sought to when he says here's what I think. When he said, he wants to make it better for everybody, he was talking about his definition of better, which is to make it something that he would approve of more.
Right.
And that's really the biggest problem. Is that everybody's has a subjective definition of what's better or worse. But Punk, I would say, he probably had the knowledge deep down within himself that he would not have made what he did not necessarily make anything better, but I'm fairly certain that he didn't care because all he cared about was his definition of better.
Right. He wanted to make it better for himself and no one else.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily for no one else, but for the people that he thought were worthy. But
who is he? Who is he to judge who's worthy and who's not?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, let's go back to the whole idea, where on the podcast with Cabana, he brought up the fact that he had pitched the idea of the Shield, that he wanted it to be Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Cassius Ohno, known at that time on the Indies as Chris Hero.
Right.
And Creative shot it down and said they wanted Roman instead. The whole concept being there that Punk believed his idea of what the Shield should have been, and who was involved in it. He thought that his concept of it was better because of the fact that he wanted it to be people he knew would put in work on the Indies, because that was what mattered to him, was the fact that the people had put in work on the Indies and had been in the trenches with him and doing spots that he was a part of at the same time, because he never quite let go of the fact that WWE was not in the same vein as the independent circuit, or that they did things differently than what he was used to.
And what he did though too is by doing that shit, he actually hurt a lot of the wrestlers that are coming off the Indies.
Yeah.
Because they get signed up for WWE, and look what's happening to them.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Look at Cassius Ohno now, and let's speculate here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Would the Shield have honestly worked with Cassius Ohno in Roman's slot?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
No. I agree.
No, because like they said, they got the lunatic that fights, you got the architect, and you got the powerhouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
You needed that.
Yeah, and Cassius Ohno, for as good as he is, because he is a great talent and he is capable of a lot of things.
Yes, he is.
But he would not have filled that role suitably at all.
No.
So
and what he's doing now down in NXT is the main carpenter is perfect for him.
Yeah, because he's 37 years old and wouldn't be right for a main event slot anymore.
No, he's not. You have him get in a ring with guys who need to be put over.
Mm-hmm.
And Cassius Ohno, Chris Hero, I've seen some of his work, and he is someone that can get a person over in one match. Look what he did with Almas.
Yep.
And Zelina Vega. The first time they had a match, he made Almas look like $1 million.
After Almas had been dead in the water because they gave him a crappy gimmick out the gate.
Right.
All he needed, people were buying in for the gimmick with him and Zelina, but they needed to make sure that he was still going to perform in a way that would be up to standards, and he knocked it out of the park because he was working with someone who was of equal talent on the other side of the ring from him, and Cassius Ohno.
Right. Cassius Ohno against Lars Sullivan.
Yep.
The
feud when Naoya Tommy was coming back from his injury.
Yeah.
Right, he went up to 205 Live. That's laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
That for Hideo Itami to be on 205 Live and to succeed.
And CM Punk couldn't accept that fact.
No, because it wasn't the main event slot, because he thought that the guy who would work that hard deserved to be in that main event slot. And
I can see his point.
I understand. I understand the logic of it.
Yes.
It's not his company, and that's really the thing about it that is the biggest symptom of this whole thing of people knowing the insider terms and speaking as if they know the business and all that, is that it has created the atmosphere that we are in now, where people think that they should be the ones in charge of the company and that they should be the ones in charge.
I'm sorry I started laughing, Chris, but I kind of touched on that a little while ago.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But it bears repeating.
Yeah.
None of us are better at this, or would be better at this, than the people who've been doing the business for many, many years. And granted, I will grant you the fact that Vince is certainly not doing nearly as good of a job as he once was. Nor is he creating a product that is nearly worth watching as much as it once was. But
No.
for all of his faults and for all of his flaws, Vince is still
printing money,
and that in the end is the name of the game. Is to make money, and that's what is going to propel the company forward and keep the company solvent.
Okay, here's something that I find interesting. Okay,
mm-hmm.
CM Punk talks about how there are people that don't deserve to be in the main event slots that are there, and this and that. Okay, what happened to the wrestling company you had, Punk? He blames his brother for stealing the gate. Why did you? I said you knew your brother had problem with the drug and the alcohol. Why did you put him in charge of the money?
Yeah,
that just it made absolutely no sense, and that was on the video. He talked about that.
Yep.
He still to this day doesn't talk to his brother because of that. But damage is done.
Yeah.
You buried yourself, Punk. I'm sorry, you buried yourself.
Yep. And people conveniently, forget all about that.
Oh yes.
But, they'll remember just how much he was a quote unquote big time star in Ring of Honor, and how he was the one.
Ring of Honor ain't the WWE, pal.
No, exactly. And it's easy I won't. No, I won't say it's easy because it's not easy, but it certainly is not as demanding to be the number 1A in a company of Ring of Honor size than it is to be the number 1A in WWE.
Exactly.
You know, I kind of look at this too, like you guys were talking about Punk's brother. For somebody that's such a straight edge, has such a problem with it, you're not going to tell me he didn't know his brother had problems.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you, if you're got that much against people that does any of that, why would you put him in charge of anything?
Yeah.
So right there, he's a hypocrite.
Yeah. He absolutely is.
Yep. And I would love to see him book his own company.
Yeah.
He would book himself to the top just like Vern did, just like, you know, any wrestler that had the book in a promotion. Dusty did it.
Hell, Triple H still does it.
Triple H does it.
Mm-hmm.
Vern did it.
Vince did it.
Vince did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, hell, Vern Gagne did that shit for so long. How do you think he's held the championship title so long?
He held the AWA world heavyweight title for in I think 3 or 4 reigns for a total of almost 18 years.
Yeah. And he was the owner of the company.
Because he was the owner of the company, and his famous excuse was, "I couldn't trust anybody else."
Yeah, which is garbage.
Well, the main one he did trust was Nick Bockwinkel, because look how long Nick Bockwinkel held that.
8 years.
Yeah.
Nick Bockwinkel was the AWA heavyweight champion when the company closed.
Yeah. The one and only, deserving champion there at that time.
Yep.
So.
But that's what you get when
yes, Adam. Yes, Adam. Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Lawler, Fritz with his boys. Yes.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
It does.
I mean, there isn't a promotion or a regional territory out there today that the owner doesn't book his guy. He picks the guy who's the top dog.
Mm-hmm.
Professional wrestling is not a true meritocracy, ladies and gentlemen.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's based on how much money you draw and how many asses you put in seats.
Mm-hmm.
Famous line of Jim Ross: an ass every 18 inches.
Yep. Yeah. Punk's whole thing of believing that only a certain type of fan was like worthwhile also, and like that's another thing that like, well, I don't even know if that's the right way to put it, but Punk tried to push the fans in a certain direction towards having certain attitudes, towards being a certain way, because he thought it would further his agenda.
Of course. But
at the same time, he had no problem talking down to the fans and, making it seem like he didn't believe that they were worthwhile. One only needs to look, you look up that, if you go on Twitter, go into looking up the GIF section, and you just look up CM Punk. One of the first ones you'll find is the GIF of him yelling out to the crowd, "Sit down, Marks."
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah,
and it's true.
He had no problem with, saying to those people, yeah, you pay my bills. Yeah, you do all this to, make my career successul. But at the end of the day,
I don't need you.
You're still not worth my time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I would love to be able to go back in time and hear some stories about, when he had to do the house shows, and if he ever would go out to meet the fans after the show, because there are plenty of stories about stars meeting the fans after the shows.
Yep. And that's one thing they don't talk about in the video. the best in the world. You don't hear him talk about. You don't hear him talk about him doing Make-A-Wish.
No.
Or going out and doing a meet and greet with fans at a house show.
Not at all.
Because that wasn't important to him.
Yeah. Because again,
the fans were lining his pockets with the money that he has today to live the way he does.
Yep.
And he didn't have time. He didn't have the decency to tell. He didn't even tell. To this day, he hasn't told the fans thank you.
Nope. And that's the thing that I will forever point out and put in people's faces at the end of the day.
Yep.
Punk walked away from the business in 2014. He has never once indicated that he ever wants to go back. In fact, he has said on multiple occasions that he will never go back. He said on the podcast, WWE blocked him on Twitter. He blocked them. He has no interest in going back
to any wrestling promotion.
Yeah,
none.
And he's focused on doing his MMA thing, which
which is an abortion in and of itself.
More power to you, Punk. But he's that's what he wants to do. That's his thing. But
if he's going to have the same attitude there, nobody's going to want him.
No,
he does have that attitude. He had that attitude going in.
Yep, and he's already. People have already said on multiple occasions they don't want to see him fight ever again because of the fact that he looks like shit inside the octagon.
Yes, he's had 2 fights in the octagon and has looked like a total blithering idiot.
Yep, in both
of them, from what I've been hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm glad I'm not paying the pay-per-view money to see that shit.
No, not at all. I don't.
Congratulations, Dana White. You got yourself a wrestler that can't do a damn thing.
I don't even think he's going to be booked with UFC anymore. I think he's.
No, I think he's done. I think I think Dana White's cutting his losses now.
Yeah, I think he's only going to be with
Bellator.
Yeah, probably like Bellator and all them. The lower end MMA.
The less than promotions.
Yeah, and
Punk will figure out a way to make it that UFC didn't take him seriously.
It's kind of fitting in a way that he's wound up in that spot.
Yeah,
because of the fact that he made such a point of wanting to be at the top and wanting to be the biggest name in the business. And
isn't karma a bitch?
Yeah, karma's a bitch, but it still boils down to the fact that he did not have he was not what the company was looking for. And the fact that he was not what the company was looking for is something that he just can't accept because he's just so insistent on the fact that he was the best of the best. And that's all he will. That's all he's able to
see,
believe, and see.
Yeah, he thinks he's the best of everything.
Yep. And it bears repeating that he wants nothing to do with the business, but the fans are always still clamoring for him to come back for whatever reason.
Well, look what he did to Corey Graves just recently. Corey Graves reached out to him.
Yeah.
And they were best friends at one time.
Yep.
And CM Punk basically shit on him on Twitter.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't want anything to do with you or anybody that's involved with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And for the next few weeks, you would hear the backhanded comments by Graves on Raw and SmackDown, both about Punk.
Yep.
So, how can someone sleep at night after doing that kind of stuff? I couldn't.
Doesn't matter what happened with the company. If you're friends, don't treat your friends like shit.
Yeah. You know, I've had some instances recently of, you know, having interactions and things, or, you know, relationships fall apart with people, but I don't condemn others who choose to still interact with those people, because that's not a thing you're supposed to do. You're supposed you let people decide for themselves. And Punk has never given anyone that chance. Punk never will give anyone that chance, because he just cannot accept that he is not right. You know, and believe me, I sympathize with him having the medical issues. I really do. You know, reading the reports about what he had, and getting looks at some of the images that he shared. I firmly believe that he was, not lying about some of the issues he was dealing with. But that doesn't give him the right to just unanimously and overwhelmingly crap on the company and the people involved, and to tell them, you're worthless and you're shit because you didn't give me what I quote unquote deserved.
Yeah,
and that's what he's done. That is what he has done.
He felt that because of what he did in the Indies and in ROH and all that stuff, that he should have been in the top slot. And when he was signed by WWE and sent down to OVW at the time, there were several times, and Paul Heyman has made reference to this. There were several times that the powers that be in Stanford told him to get rid of him, to fire him. He was so much not what they wanted.
Yeah. And then he wound up in ECW.
Yeah. So
I will maintain that Punk did have some degree of positive contributions.
Some.
That's not to be that is not to be denied. He had good things to offer. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, we can very definitively say the overall legacy that CM Punk left with WWE was a net negative.
Yeah.
Because for all the good that he did in, bringing to light, some of the indies and helping to usher certain people to the top and, for creating good storylines, the overall, sum total is that the company has suffered as a result of him being present, and especially as a result of him leaving in the way that he did. And the talent has suffered. The fans have been changed in a lot of ways. There are a lot of things that are just, I don't really know if wrong is the right word for it, because it's not to say that the things are wrong, but things definitely could be better. That is absolutely the case. Things could definitely be better. And if Punk had not chosen to conduct himself in the way that he did, it's very likely, very feasible to say that it would have been it would be a very different environment now than it is right now. So I hope that the time will come that Punk's legacy can kind of fade away.
Yeah.
Because what he's left behind and what continues to be present
is so destructive.
Yeah. It is absolutely destructive. It is destructive, and it detracts from the overall product and from everyone that's involved in it.
Right. I mean, CM Punk, you say a net negative, and I tend to agree with that because he wanted WWE to be in his image, and Vince wouldn't do it. And when the whole thing when he left or whatever it was, he left, got fired, however that worked. There was the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, Phil Brooks lost.
Even though he won the lawsuit, he still
lost. Because what friends he had left in WWE, he buried.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something he admitted on the stand that kind of struck me as funny, and it had to do with that. I believe the 2013 Royal Rumble or 14 Royal Rumble, where he was concussed,
mm-hmm.
and the referee told Vince in the back, Punk's concussed. He's like, tell him to get out. Punk refused to get out of the ring. That is public knowledge.
And that's on him. That's not on the company.
Yeah.
But he was sitting there saying that the company was trying to force. He was forced to stay in the match. No, he wasn't. He stayed on his own.
Yeah. And him saying that, he was, what do you call it? With the regards to the infection, and that he was just given Z-Pack after Z-Pack after Z-Pack. If that's really the case, you would think that eventually, and I'm not saying that he was lying, but if what he's describing was really the situation, you would think that at some point, eventually, he would have the wherewithal to go to another doctor and to then get that doctor's diagnosis and opinion, bring it back to WWE's doctors and say, hey, I went to another professional. They say that this is going on. I need you to treat me for this.
And and like you said, Z-Pack after Z-Pack after. Granted, in the first one might not have worked, but after the second one, yeah. Why didn't he go to a different doctor, the emergency room anywhere?
Yeah.
Medication ain't working.
Yeah. Anything that would have been, him having to go outside of himself and to, make an effort. It seems to have just magically escaped him, which is kind of mind-boggling to me.
Well, yeah. Why should he go outside himself and do anything when he can blame it on everybody else?
Yeah, you're not wrong. And that is the bigger problem. Is the fact that he insisted on having it always be about what other people should be doing for him. And, what he deserved that, would come from others. And that's not the way you should conduct yourself. That's not the way to be.
Like you said, he thought he was entitled instead of working for it.
Yeah. I would love to know where that sense of entitlement came from. Like, we'll never really find out, I'm sure. But I would love to know how it is that he came in already with such a big chip on his shoulder about what he felt he was owed.
I think a lot of it had to do with ECW.
Well, even in ECW though, like, it wasn't as obvious, but he definitely still had that attitude to him in ECW of, the fact that he felt like he should be, getting all the attention and being the focus of things.
The difference
by the way he carried himself.
But the difference in ECW though is he actually worked.
Yeah. Shockingly, that he did.
He worked, so when it comes up to WWE, he thinks because of all that he's entitled. You just give me.
Oh, I really want to know, like, and we'll never find out.
No,
he'll never cop to that. But I really would love to find out, what that came from, and also to what end did he think he was, what was the end result that he was looking for, that he thought he was going to accomplish by having that spot and by being, that in that space of recognition. Because, when you get right down to it, being the number one guy in WWE back in 2013, 2014, definitely is not that big of a deal. It's even less of a deal now, with Roman Reigns being out and with Brock Lesnar being back on top. It's even less of a deal now. That's really the thing, because WWE has slowly been exiting the public conscience because the big stars have all disappeared. That's why Vince keeps insisting on bringing them back. That's why he's, I'm sure he's trying like hell to find a way to get around the insurance companies that insure The Rock, so that, he can bring The Rock back for one more match, because, it's, it's, all he can think of to do, because he can't be bothered to step outside of himself and actually bother to come up with something good anymore. So, the end result in the world where CM Punk is the top star in WWE, the end result is still the same. He still would not be satisfied. He still would be wanting more. He still would be shitting on the company and the fans and the people that surrounded him. And eventually he would still have walked away. Because, again, there's only so far you can get.
Yeah. Once at the time he was here, time he was in WWE, and I mean, he held the two top titles in his time here. He held the big gold belt, or the World Heavyweight Championship belt, and he held the WWE title.
Yep.
And he was at top. Having the WWE champion, being the WWE champion, you are the top guy. You are the number one guy. So, technically,
yep.
Supposed to be
34 days.
Yeah, please. And he would remind us every time he got on the mic.
Well, you know what? Biff's got a comment that's pretty good, because it's true. Some people are just born pissed off, and as they grow up, they never stop hating the world.
It's not wrong, certainly.
No.
That's a point well taken. But that doesn't mean that, that's the right way to conduct yourself when you're a professional.
No.
You know what I mean?
I mean, there are things in the world I dislike, but I'm not going to sit there and dislike the whole world. Because if I disliked the whole world, I wouldn't, I wouldn't have the time for you, Chris.
Exactly. Nor would I have had the time for any of you.
If we're being real here, but you and I both are not that selfish.
Yeah.
We don't know how to be that selfish.
Indeed. And when we get to the end of the story here, Punk's time in WWE, he's gonna make it out to be like he was the only thing that was worthwhile in the company at that point in time.
Yep.
And he was a small blip on the radar in actual sense. Yes, he was absolutely he contributed a lot and did a lot while he was there. But when we talk about the legacy of Bruno and Flair and Hogan and Warrior and Andre and Austin and Rock
and Cena. And we could also say we could throw Roman Reigns into that.
Hell, we could even throw Brock Lesnar into that, as much as I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't either.
Those guys actually did something for the company.
Yeah.
They put people over. They worked for everybody, not just themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Would we have seen... Oof. I know this is going to cause controversy when I ask this question, but the hell with it. Controversy creates cash. Would we have ever seen CM Punk put someone over like Roman put over Braun Strowman?
Hell no.
No. And why? Because it was all about himself.
Yeah. And more than that, like, it wasn't necessarily obvious, but you could definitely tell that Punk, the real thing that identified this was when Ryback got involved in the feud between him and Cena. And you could tell that Punk had no desire, less than no desire, to be working with Ryback, because he thought that Ryback was not worth the time and dangerous and, too green and, too much a vanity project by Vince or whatever you want to say.
Yep.
He just didn't care to work with Ryback.
Well, I'm going to say something here that you probably will agree with, Chris. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the match at WrestleMania between CM Punk and The Undertaker. Punk was mailing it in. I'm sorry. Punk was mailing that match in.
Yeah, he was mailing it in because it wasn't the main event, and that when he was just bitter about it.
And Taker busted his ass to make the match something.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Adam. He became the fastest Grand Slam champion ever. What does he really have to be pissed about? Exactly. The dude was given everything that he wanted for a very long period of time, and still it wasn't enough. And then when the company finally put their foot down and said, "No, we're done playing this game," he acted like a spoiled child. He freaking threw a temper tantrum and didn't do what he was supposed to do. He didn't do his job.
I think he got mad because the WWE beat him to taking his, he didn't get to pull the Steve Austin and take his ball and go home.
Yeah.
And I think that pissed him off even more.
And that's the thing that I, stand on at this point when talking about CM Punk is that, he believed in himself in a workplace that requires you to believe in others.
Yep.
He was a selfish performer where in a business where you have to be a team player.
Yep.
And the company acquiesced to that for a while until they decided they didn't need to anymore. And when they finally did start calling him on his bluff, and they finally did start, acting in their own interest instead of in his, that was when he started acting like a child and having a temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but in what workplace is there out there where behavior like that would be rewarded in that way? In what workplace, what environment out there would that kind of attitude be rewarded?
You want to answer that one, LL, or should I?
Go ahead.
Nowhere.
Exactly.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, and LL and I both drove truck over the road, big rigs.
Yeah.
And that attitude won't get you anywhere in that business.
Not at all. And that's what it boils down to. Punk chose, because he believed himself to be. I'm going to call it like I see it. Punk believed himself to be above the business and above the, the principles that have made this business what it is for as long as it has been in existence.
Mm-hmm.
Punk acted as if he did not owe anything to the company, to his fellow workers, or to anybody that was in charge of things.
Yeah.
He know nothing. He figured everybody owed him.
Mm-hmm.
Because of his time on the indies.
Doesn't matter, but his legacy, like that, has screwed everybody else from the indies.
Yeah.
And from Japan, the ones that were in New Japan, wrestled there, coming off the indies, they're all being treated like shit. They're all being buried. All because of CM Punk.
But the thing is that, we're putting a lot of blame at CM Punk's feet over how some of the people from the indies are being treated now. And I honestly don't believe that the company even realizes that's what they're doing.
I think that on some level.
But why are they punishing some of the other indies for what CM Punk did 5 years ago?
Well, I don't think that the punishment is. I don't think it's necessarily supposed to be like punishment for what Punk did. I think that the more accurate description is that at the time, the thought process and the fear was and continues to be that those people would then go out into the wrestling world at large and would, allow another company to outperform the WWE. And that's what Vince has always been afraid of the most. The idea that somebody could be better at this. And that would force him to go back to, acknowledging that he is in fact a wrestling promoter instead of a movie maker or whatever the fuck it is that he thinks he is.
Yeah.
And, Punk walking out opened up the door for other people to do the same if they so wanted. And some people have and some people haven't. But that, I believe, was the start of the whole mindset of Vince McMahon that we can't allow anybody out there to possibly, outshine us. So we're going to sign literally everybody that we can pay them whatever because we're going to be able to pay them more than what they make on the indies regardless, and then just have them more on the bench. And that strategy has worked to some extent.
And the thing is this: we're not hearing those wrestlers from the indie scene that are getting the checks from the Fed, or as George puts it, the Fed.
Yeah.
Complaining one bit about not having to work.
Yeah.
Why? Because all the years on the indies, they have beat their bodies to shit.
Yeah.
It's like, the rumor coming up at next month or at the end of next month, the Bucks, I think it's the Bucks and Omega's contracts are done with NJPW.
Yep, January 1st.
Okay.
And the speculation is that
they're coming to the Fed.
They're coming to the Fed.
Yeah.
Even after all of the time that they have spent saying that they will never go.
Right. But they're realizing one thing. This is their, if the contract is offered, this is their one shot to hit the big time and make the big money without having to kill themselves. So what? They got to ride the pine. So what? They're going to be made, the Young Bucks are going to be made like the Good Brothers are, Gallows and Anderson. So what?
Yeah, I mean, there's all the rumors going around about the possibility that
they're going to have money. They're going to have checks that'll cash and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Their merch will sell because they're the Young Bucks. That simple.
Yep. There's all the rumors going around about the possibility that Nakamura and Gallows and Anderson want to go back to New Japan, and that they're gonna go back once their contracts with WWE are up because they are not being.
It's funny you should mention AJ Styles, bro.
Well, no, Styles is not one of them. It's only the rumor only pertains to Nakamura, Gallows, and Anderson right now.
And the other rumor is that Anderson and Gallows is going to be released.
Yeah, there's rumors they're going to be released, and there's rumors that they're going to quit.
Yeah.
AJ Styles, there's rumors that he's gonna quit, after his contract up. Well, he just started negotiations with the WWE. His contract expires in April of next year. He's in negotiations now for an extension.
Yep.
He's in the top 3 in the company pay wise.
Yep.
So, So there is some good that's come of it.
Yeah.
But not much.
Well, again, though, and this is something that we, can trace back partially to Punk and partially to WWE. But the whole idea that, these people could potentially outdraw the WWE from the indies is in and of itself absolutely asinine.
It's ludicrous.
On everybody's part.
It's ludicrous.
On Vince's part and on anybody else who believes it, because nobody has that kind of money. Nobody has the TV exposure, and nobody has the licensing and to be able to run shows everywhere the way the WWE does.
No, you're right. And I mean, for anybody to think that it's possible is absolutely ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
Ludicrous. You're barking up the wrong tree, because I am going to put it in very simple terms for people who everybody in the United States know who the mafia is.
Mm-hmm.
We all know about the illegal drug trade that's going on in the gang world with all these street gangs, right?
Yep.
There is one way that that gang problem with the drugs can be solved. And you know what that is?
What's that?
Mafia come in and take it over. And if the mafia wanted to, they can.
Yep.
Because they would just walk into the neighborhood and just start whacking people.
Yep.
And those little hoodlums would not know what hit them.
Yep.
So they come in and say, we're taking the drugs over, and if you don't like it, tough.
Too bad.
And bam, that's it. It wouldn't take long.
Nope, not at all.
As I say, so Vince McMahon is like the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
All these other little promotions that are out there, like ROH and TNA and all these other ones of Lucha Underground, which don't make any money, which I still don't understand. They're not in it to make money. They're in it to make TV.
Mm-hmm.
Are the street gangs fighting the turf wars over drug corners. And at any time, if Vince wants to, he can come in and just take it. And he knows it. Does he have to? Or does he want to? No. But he's keeping his eye on them. They get too big or they're signing too many popular people. Okay. I'll take this one, this one, this one. Boom. And here they come to WWE. All of a sudden, they're in NXT. They're leaving TNA or they're leaving Ring of Honor, and nobody knows where they're going. Boom. Next thing you see them, they're in NXT. Nobody thought the War Machine was going to come to the WWE. Here they are. War Raiders are now here.
Mm-hmm. And even to the point of Vince, making deals in ways that he, would not have done previously. I mean, Evolve basically is a feeder system for NXT at this point.
Yeah.
Same thing for Progress and ICW.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't forget all the promotions over in the UK.
Yeah, Progress, ICW. Those are both feeder systems at this point for NXT.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only a matter of time before more of those relationships start to develop.
And with what Triple H wants to do with NXT,
yeah,
have all the little regional promotions in NXT around the world, and then the NXT guy from Orlando, the champion or the champion of women, the men, and tag team, travel the world to defend those titles. It's there again. We're off topic here, but that's what happens when you're just having a conversation.
Yeah, that's how these things go. But no, that's like I said though, that's Punk should be happy if he wanted indie people to be getting recognized and wanted the indies to have some credence. He should be happy about that kind of thing happening. Mm-hmm. He should be happy that he was able to be that degree of an influencer.
Yeah.
Instead, he spent all that time just complaining and acting shitty.
Yep.
The fact that names are out there now, like and people who have walked away that have been successful are out there now too.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes. Look at Juice Robinson. Look at Pac. 3 guys right there who walked out on WWE, chose to take their own path, and are now doing excellent because of it.
Yeah. Pac, for those of you that don't know, ladies and gentlemen, was Neville.
Neville,
in the cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
I still say that was a major screw up on WWE's part.
Absolutely, it was. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and then you got people like what was his name? He was with Seb Coulter and Cesaro at one point.
Oh, Jack Swagger.
Jack Swagger, he's out on it. He's making money.
Yep, he's the Lucha Underground champion right now.
Yep. You got Tennille Dashwood. If she can stay healthy, she's making money on the indies. Why? Yep. She's Emma. Everybody knows her as Emma.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, her time in WWE just wasn't working. I think maybe it was bad timing, and that does happen.
Well, it was also a failure on their part to.
Right, there was failure. There was failure to find her a proper gimmick,
a working gimmick, or to acknowledge the fact that the gimmick that did work was worth keeping around.
Right. But I mean, there's there are independents out there who have been in WWE, and then there's ones that have come to the WWE.
Yeah.
And everybody's been paid or getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime, and the thing about it is, anybody who's been with WWE and goes out on the indie scene can command more money.
Mm-hmm.
Just on having WWE on the former super WWE superstar so and so on the playbill.
On your resume, all they gotta do, they can make it with that on their resume.
Yep.
They can make more money. It increases their money 25% just by having it on their business card. Wrestled in WWE. There's 25% more money.
Easily.
To just
and you know, if they were somebody who was even remotely close to a main event talent, even more than that.
Imagine, think about it. Think about it for a second. Let's put this in a hypothetical situation. All right. Let's say Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose decide to go back to the Indies.
Mm-hmm.
After the runs that they have had here, those two in the WWE now, I'd say 40 to 50% more money just for them to walk in the door.
Yeah.
Imagine the place would be sold out.
In a heartbeat.
Because
a fucking heartbeat.
Everybody knows Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Not everybody knows Jon Moxley.
Nope.
And I can't think of what Seth Rollins' character was on the Indies.
Tyler Black.
Yeah, who knows? Tyler Black. Not everybody knows Jon Moxley or Tyler Black, but everybody knows Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins.
Yep. And the idea has been floated by others, and I would be willing to bet that it could be also proposed that Roman Reigns, I mean, he would never do it, but the idea has been floated of what would it look like if Roman Reigns decided to leave the company because of how horrible his booking has been, and what it would look like if he went across the sea and went to New Japan.
Well, think about this for a second, okay? And this is something that Biff brought up in a posting. Biff Kensington III, co-host with me on Monday nights.
Yes.
8/7 Central.
Yep.
Who's the one that had the title forever over there? Kaz Okada, right?
Yep, Okada, exactly.
Yeah, you take Kazuchika Okada and you trade him to the WWE for Roman Reigns, and let them work let them work for a year to 18 months, do a talent swap, so to speak. Those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
When Kaz Okada comes back, he's had exposure to WWE. His stock rises. Yeah, Roman Reigns is gone for a year and a half from WWE. He's not being shoved down everybody's throat. He goes over and gets more diverse in his wrestling. Comes back to the United States as Roman Reigns and just comes out and just starts killing everybody and not saying a word. New character who's got more wrestling skill.
Mm-hmm. And both of them have considerable skill already.
Yes.
To begin with.
But can imagine him learning some of the Japanese style.
Yeah.
And bringing it back, Roman Reigns wrestling strong style Japanese stuff.
Strong style Roman Reigns is like that. That's
a scary thought.
That's a personal fantasy come true right there.
And would something like that work? Of course it would.
Mm-hmm.
But is Vince willing to do that? I think he is.
No.
Look what he's doing with Jericho right now. Granted, Jericho's not under contract, but
I think that's why is the fact that Jericho's not under contract.
But
I think
you know what? Jericho could come back, work any show in WWE he wants. Because Jericho's got that kind of clout. Why? He's been here for as long as he's been here.
Hmm.
You look at it, longevity. Vince rewards longevity.
Yeah.
Undertaker, been there what? Almost 30 years.
Yep. Longevity and consistency.
Shawn Michaels been around. He left, retired, but lately, in the last couple of years, where's he been? Down in Orlando, working for free, teaching the kids.
Yep.
Teaching the kids. Why? Because Shawn Michaels has got something to give back.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, it's longevity and loyalty. Those are the things that Vince rewards the most. Yep. If you're loyal to him, he will bend over backwards for you. The minute you stab him in the back, you're done.
And that's what Punk never really learned, because Punk wanted to.
Punk wanted Vince's seat.
Yeah, Punk wanted to be, you know, the number 1A guy from minute one. And, you know, rather than working for it and being loyal, he chose to
steal it.
He chose to make threats about it and say, you know, hey, if I don't get the spot that I'm owed, if I don't get, you know, this opportunity that I feel I deserve, then I'm just gonna walk out. And eventually they called his bluff. And he walked out. And now look at what's happened.
Oh, this is something you might know, Chris, but Chris brings up, or Adam brings up, he said, Roman running around with the GOD is something I need in my life. Could you please explain to me what that is? Because I don't know.
The Gorillas of Destiny.
Oh, yeah. That would be oi.
Print the dollars is what that.
You know what?
The dollars.
There are so many Roman fanatics fans out there. That would be their perfect wet dream.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this is a perfect wet dream in the WWE. Roman Reigns, Jimmy and Jey Uso as a faction.
Yeah.
And Naomi being a part of it because she's married to one of the Usos.
Yeah.
And then you bring along Tamina and Nia Jax. You just call it the Samoan Mafia. That's it. And have them have all the belts, all the titles. They're all theirs.
Yep.
Just strap them all up.
Or if you're still keeping the idea of the talent exchange program, Roman, Jimmy and Jay, Tama and Tonga, and Fale.
Oh my God. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scary group.
Yeah.
The Gorillas of Destiny coming over to WWE. Oof. Oof. Please.
I mean, they've decided they want to be a heel promotion. There's nothing better than that would be.
And they just come in and kill everybody.
Yep.
The matches they could have. The matches. Think about this. Those three guys. You said Tama Loa and Tama Tonga, right? And Bad Luck Fale.
Yep.
Going against the New Day.
Mm-hmm.
Print money.
Yep. I mean, the opportunities that are there are great in number, but the paranoia that exists now in Vince about being upstaged makes that impossible, and it'll never happen until he is no longer in the top seat. And I mean, maybe that was inevitable. Maybe it's something that's going to happen eventually when H takes over. Yeah, but like there's maybe it was inevitable that Vince was going to get this paranoid and get this crazy about being upstaged by other promotions. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, maybe the fact that Punk started making those threats and Punk started, having that attitude might have pushed Vince into saying, we can't take the risk. Because remember, we touched on it before, after he left, all the CM Punk chants, were nonstop. Yeah. The fans insisted on Daniel Bryan being the top guy. And nobody who thought anything else was allowed to even make their voices heard, because all of Punk's fans and all the fans who believe that wrestling should be like what it is in the indies just shouted everybody down.
Oh, and Adam, that would be funny.
Yeah, Haku for shits and giggles, or bring back Sifa and Aka. Is Sifa and Afa also?
Yeah, Appa and Sika back. Just to manage the shit.
The whole dynasty.
It would be scary.
It would.
But like I said, the Gorillas of Destiny run roughshod over WWE's tag team division. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. and like I said, the end result of Roman just being in charge of, or I should say, of Punk, taking, quote unquote, taking charge of his own destiny and walking out, and thereby not giving anyone else a chance because his fans chose to just hijack the product. That's what that is in large portion what made the show unwatchable for a good 2 years after the fact.
Yeah. Because anytime they were in Chicago for a Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-view, the CM Punk chants would start.
And even outside of Chicago, I mean, Chicago is where it has been most prevalent. Yes.
Well, I'm sad to say that's where that rumor would start. A Punk return imminent.
Yeah. There was the one time that they trolled Chicago by having his music play and then having Paul Heyman come out. That was hilarious.
Yes.
But yeah, like, I don't know. At this point, it's hard to be willing to hear anything else at this point, because the fans, the crowd, everybody has just made it impossible to deal with them. Those groups of fans who are just so adamant about their opinions being the only thing that counts. And CM Punk is what started that.
Yep.
And that is perhaps the most damning part of his legacy.
And that sometimes is what's got me off the threads. It's because there are so many people there that, their opinion is gospel and you are absolutely worthless.
Yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. The whole idea that Punk, poisoned the fan base in that way. And he did. That is the accurate description for it. Punk poisoned the fan base by creating that attitude and creating that mindset and creating that divide.
Yep.
That may never heal, because he was, to his credit and detriment and to all of our loss, he was just that charismatic and that effective in his words, and to make people to believe what he believed.
That's that's the legacy he left behind. And to me, I couldn't live with myself on doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in my makeup.
No, not at all. Mine either.
It's I talk about. I'm going to draw a comparison here. Okay, the podcast network that I basically say I created.
Mm-hmm.
No, all I did was have the idea. I talked with you. I talked with your partner, George. I talked with my partner, MDS. I talked with Sal. The original members of Los Ingobernables, the podcast. We all had to agree to this, or it wasn't going to happen. That's
It's not just one person.
No.
It's the whole group.
We're a group. if we want to add anybody to the group, the 5 original members have to sit down and meet and talk about it. And if we don't all agree, they're not coming in. It's just that simple. That's, we still have days of the week available for those people who wish to podcast. But, you've got to impress us somehow.
and that's the same way as it is in the wrestling business. Yeah. There's a spot for you if you're willing to work and be part of the team and be a team player and contribute for everyone else, not just for yourself. If you're willing, there's a spot for you. But
you gotta abide by the rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of people don't understand. Even though it's wrestling, every company has a set of standards and rules you gotta follow.
Mm-hmm. And Punk was not willing to do that because, WWE would not give him exactly what he wanted.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
He wanted him to be his rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it don't work that way.
Doesn't.
He got into a pissing contest with Vince and lost.
Yep.
Once you admit that, that's half the battle right there. One of the biggest superstars WWE ever had. That was Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Everybody will agree that.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
He took his ball and went home. And what? 18 months later, he realized what he had done. And yes, Jim Ross got those two together and they each hashed out their differences and went forward.
Mm-hmm.
But they both had to admit their wrongdoings to one another.
Mm-hmm.
In the end. And it made Stone Cold a much better man for it. He even says, I realized it was I made a big mistake doing that. He goes, and Vince has a long memory.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, when I came back, he goes, yeah, I suffered at the bottom for quite a while, but I knew it was coming. Yeah. He said, I had to eat my crow, but I knew I would get there. It's like the whole breaking of kayfabe that happened during the curtain call. Kevin, Hall and Nash were gone. Mm-hmm. Shawn was the next up-and-coming star. Then there was Triple H.
Yep.
He was supposed to win King of the Ring that year. That was gone.
Mm-hmm.
He fell all the way to the bottom of the card.
Because he said goodbye to Hall and Nash.
Mm-hmm.
But by all rights, Triple H could have left.
Yeah.
But he stayed. And he climbed his way back up the ladder. And yes, he's married to the boss's daughter now. And yes, he's an officer with the company. But you know what? He earned it on his own. Mm. Not because he's married to Stephanie is why he's in the office. No, he earned that on his own.
Yeah. Having the daughter of the company owner as your spouse doesn't create that good of a mind for the business.
No.
So, he worked hard for that.
Yeah, because if he didn't have if there was nothing there, it wouldn't have mattered. No matter what he did, he would not have got that position.
Mm-hmm.
The man has a mind for the business.
Yes, he does.
He is a student.
Absolutely.
He's forgotten more than I'll ever know. And he's younger than I am. I'll admit that. He's younger than me and he's forgotten more about this business than I'll ever know.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Wow. Been almost 2 hours. Time flies.
Yeah.
There's something else with CM Punk. With what he did, it doesn't matter what the fans think or keep going back for him. But because of what he did, he kind of blackballed himself in the wrestling world.
Yeah.
I don't think even any of the indies Not any promotions are going to take a chance.
Maybe not, but I believe that there is a possibility that, there's always a possibility that somebody would take a shot with him, because, the payday would be good enough.
I don't see ROH doing it.
Maybe not.
I don't see Impact doing it.
No, definitely.
A lot of them, I don't see because of how publicized and everything this stuff was with WWE.
Yeah.
Is anybody really going to take the chance on him for him to do that?
The lawsuit is what did him in. No company will touch him because if he has a hangnail and then cries to the doctors, he could sue. He'll sue you. He's shown that he's not afraid to sue his employer.
Yeah, and beyond,
I could tell you, would NJPW touch him? No, hell no.
But even more so than that,
maybe DDT Pro would, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah, the day that Punk goes to fucking DDT is the day that I eat my hat. But even more so than that, I think the even more valuable thing is that, and as I said before, he has shown no desire to come back. He has shown no appreciation for the possibility of coming back for the sake of the fans. He has no regard left for this business. Even though I'm sure that there, are some promotions that, would love to book him. I'm sure that, a promotion like an MLW or WrestleCade or something else out of the Midwest, would love to book him just for the sake of having
AAW would probably love to have him.
Actually, I don't know about AAW, but maybe. But either way, I'm sure there are promotions out there that would, love to give him the payday just for the sake of being able to have a sold show. But a lot of them are going to stick with the principle that he's not worth it because he has shown utter and complete contempt for the business, because he has.
Yep.
No one would walk away from the company and say the things that he said unless they were actually in total contempt towards the business as a whole.
Yep.
So,
I mean, he not only threw WWE under the bus in that podcast with Cole Cabana, he threw ROH.
Mm-hmm.
He basically threw the entirety of professional wrestling under the bus.
Yeah. And that is why I do not understand, and I never will understand, the people that want him to come back so desperately. Because, again, just as the title, bring it full circle, just as the title of the show says, all that he has left us with is a legacy of infamy and disgust.
Yep.
That will be CM Punk's contribution to the business for the remainder of time. And the history books are going to show, because we've talked about it on my show. We live in a great era of professional wrestling. There's so much good stuff going on right now in the professional wrestling business. Anything that is viewed as a negative will be referred back to the fans that have a bad attitude. And the majority of fans that have a bad attitude, I can safely say, without feeling like I'm wrong, I can safely say that the majority of fans that have a bad attitude have that bad attitude because of CM Punk. All right. It's a good show, guys. Do you want to close it out, guys? You got anything else?
I can't think of anything.
All right. LL, where can we find you during the week?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Windstorm64 and Monday nights on Connoisseurs of Wrestling.
Very nice. That is at 8 to 7 Central, correct?
Yep.
What did you guys talk about last night?
I wasn't there, so I really don't think it was Nancy Sullivan Benoit.
Oh, right. Yes. George mentioned that to me. Yes, I actually am not familiar with her, so I need to go back and watch that and experience that, because I don't know anything really about her. So I need to get the info. All right, Taker, where can we find you? Where can we find you during the week?
You can find me on Twitter, of course, at Takers_Minion. Every Monday night, you can hear me on the Connoisseurs of Wrestling with my lovely wife, LegendsLover, the impeccable Georgia Sabez, and the always funny and witty Biff Kensington III. This past week, we talked about Nancy Benoit and her legacy that's been left behind. You know, her being a victim of the heinous crime, but looking at her career in wrestling as well. And you can also catch me every Saturday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central in the morning for Shooting the Breeze with my partner and friend, Mr. Dr. Senju. And once a month right here with these two for one night at the round table. It's always fun. Yeah. Chris, where can they find you?
Well, during the course of the week, you can find me on Twitter at CrazyChris576 for discussions about all sorts of different things, ranging from wrestling to video games to politics to music to whatever's just floating through my brain on that particular day. And you can also find me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/CrazyChris576 for best in video game live streaming. I'm going to be off the rest of the week until Sunday because I'm going to be out of town for Thanksgiving. So you will not be finding me on during my regular schedule. But
damn.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you'll have to find something else to do with your evenings, Taker. I'm sorry for that. But,
I got sumo for those nights, so I just have to wait a little longer.
All right, good deal. But yeah, Sunday I'll be back 7 p.m. Eastern for more Borderlands content. So hope to see you there. And of course, indeed, I look forward to it. And of course, you can find me on Thursday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, with Two Guys, One Sport, with my incredible co-host, Georgia Savas, discussing all things in the wrestling world and our own unique and hopefully enjoyable perspective. No show this week, and next week, actually, George is off. So I'll be bringing in a guest host, possibly more than one, but definitely at least one, to get me through the week next week. And we hope to see you there. That will be our last show on YouTube before the big move over to Twitch. And that is the next thing to plug, is to remember, as of next Saturday, December 1st, we will be moving the entirety of the Los Ingobernables podcast network over to twitch.tv/Los Ingobernables podcast. I am bad showrunner and forgot to put the link in the description of the video, but I will add that after we are done. And please make sure you go over there, drop a follow, and make sure you are there to check out all of the LIP network of shows when we make the move over there. We would love to have you get the channel off to a roaring start and get us off our off to the races as quickly as possible.
Yes.
That's
gonna be fun. That's all I can say. It's gonna be an interesting ride for all of us. You know, the inspiration for Los Ingobernables, the podcast, Chris, I'm always going to put it on you because you were wearing the T-shirt that morning. It just it came to me. The skies opened and the lights came down. The angels screamed, "Ah!" And there it was.
I'm glad I could provide that for you, my friends. Other shows within the LIP network to make sure to check out. Please be sure to go and check out Grounds for Development on Thursday mornings with Biff Kensington and Greg the Hold, aka the Saskatchewan Spinning Nerve Hold, discussing all the best in the Performance Center, 205 Live, NXT, NXT UK, and all the other developing talent within the WWE system. Thursday mornings, I believe it drops at 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Something like that.
It's pre-recorded, but it is still a very, very good listen. Highly recommend you go and check it out, because those two know a lot about what they're talking about. And finally, when he's able to come back from his sabbatical, Don Sal Cusmano will be back on Outerline Media with match fixing. I know he's got a show planned for sometime in December, talking soccer, which George and MDS will be a part of. And when he's feeling up to coming back to watching more wrestling, I'm sure he'll be back to doing his show over there as well. So be sure to keep an eye on that, and check Don Sal out the next time he goes live, because he is another excellent podcaster and knows a lot of good stuff, and is a great contributor to the community as well.
He's a good brother.
He is a good brother. Next month, I already have the topic planned for next month, and
Yes.
This is something that stems from events of today, or not today, yesterday, from within WWE. Those of you who watched Monday Night Raw last night may have seen the promo delivered by Dean Ambrose to Seth Rollins, and heard some of the content that was contained within. And as a result of that promo, next month we're going to be taking a look at the usage of Eddie Guerrero's death in a storyline, and the reality of this company not having any shame anymore when it comes to arranging storylines with any degree of decency and human care.
Yes.
So
it's like, what have they become?
Yeah. We'll be discussing that, certainly.
Yep.
And please be sure you are there for that next month. I'm not sure which Tuesday it will be yet, but we will.
We will probably give you at least 2 weeks advance notice.
Yeah.
Try to anyway.
Yeah. The most likely date, if I'm looking at the calendar here, will most likely be December 18th.
Let me see.
The 1 week before Christmas.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that will be the most likely date. If that changes, we will keep you posted. But tentatively mark that date down as the day for episode 3 of One Night at the Round Table.
Which will be on the new channel at that point.
And it will be on twitch.tv/Los Ingobernables, the podcast.
Yes.
So thank you guys for listening for episode 2 of One Night at the Round Table. It's been a pleasure having you all. Hope you enjoyed the discussion tonight, and thank you for those who contributed in the chat and were taking part over there. And we look forward to seeing you back here next time.
Yep. Thanks for being here, Chris. Thanks for the topic. It was fun.
Indeed. And thank you, Takers Minion. Thank you, LL, of course, for the excellent discussion as well. It is always great to spend this time at the table with you. For Takers Minion, LegendsLover, my name is CrazyChris, and the table is closed. Have a good night.
Night, everyone.